Assassin's Creed expert, resident in the house.
Yeah.
You reviewed the latest Assassin's Creed game.
I did.
Which is, there was a great line here actually. Mildly enjoyable Mark of the Ninja wannabe.
That's the line you chose.
That was within the first 10 seconds of the review.
I crafted so many wonderful lines in that review.
Assassin's Creed Chronicles China.
Yeah.
How is it?
It's fine. It's there. It's a game that exists. You know, it's one of those things. It's like, I'm glad I played this. I'm not going to remember that it exists in a week.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But hey, you're glad you played it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's there. That's a thing.
What I like is that they did try something new. They tried to. I mean, it is not the first time they did 2D. There was a pretty good, actually, DS game after Assassin's Creed 2. And that game was actually pretty good and a lot of fun. This game is more Mark of the Ninja type thing. It's a stealth game for the most part. You can get into direct combat, but it sucks.
Really?
So I recommend. I mean, and it might be very purposefully sucky to keep you from dealing with it, you know, except in the worst of circumstances. But this is, I mean, it really is very Mark of the Ninja, but it's a lot less clever and a lot less sort of kinetic.
Can you do a quick little rundown of what makes Mark of the Ninja great? That this sort of explain that reference a little bit for folks who might not know it.
I think some of it is locomotion. You've got a much greater sense of energy in how you play Mark of the Ninja. Plus, you've got a setting where it's sort of like it's a whole screen built like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a lot more linear. You're going from point A to point B, and as a result, you spend a lot of time waiting, as you often do in a stealth game. In Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, you end up spending a lot of time waiting for the right opportunity to either sneak by or to assassinate or something like that. But what's interesting is in something like Mark of the Ninja, the sort of the stealth puzzles, the way you move through the environments, they become a lot more clever. They become a lot harder and more challenging as you go. And there's this you do earn more moves in Assassin's Creed Chronicles China as you move along, but the challenge only stays with what you're earning. There's never this moment. There's never an arc to like the way the areas work or how challenging it becomes. So
is it kind of a cakewalk then in that respect?
I don't know if it's cakewalk as much as you can just basically use the same kind of strategies over and over and over again. And there's sort of this lack of cleverness. And so what happens is the pace is very flat. You have this thing where you could choose any given chapter in the game and play it, and it feels like any other chapter, as opposed to, you know, like maybe most games, or at least, you know, the best games, where there's very much an arc, where the excitement builds and you're leading to something. Like I said in the review, like you know you're getting to the end because the story kind of is telling you you're getting to the end, but it doesn't feel like an end. You know it is, but it doesn't feel like one because there's no build-up, there's no... You know, everything's sort of random. So all the basics are there for a great game, but it didn't really put them together in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels flat as a result, even though it's gorgeous.
It looks very pretty. $10 on Steam at the moment. How long did it take you to complete it?
I'd say it took me about 4 hours. That includes like all the restarts and the, you know, getting killed, and which happened to me a bit. You know, it might not be, I wouldn't necessarily call it challenging, but I would say you'd have to put some thought into it. And it's because it's kind of has that flat feeling, it's easy to just want to move ahead and just finish. And so you can run into some problems if you just sort of lose patience with it.
Is it only on PC?
It's on PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
All right. Yeah.
I do really like that watercolor kind of style that some of the backgrounds have, and the flags waving. I think that's really great.
Looks really good, and you're not even seeing the best stuff here. I mean, it ends up looking a lot like the Chinese masters had some really great, brush strokes that they used, and you see the strokes, you see the smudges, things that make it look very much like this is, this was painted. That's my favorite move that you saw before.
Slide.
Yeah, the slide is really my favorite. The best parts of the game are ironically not stealth. They're the things that you're seeing
These, like,
here,
running
these
parts?
escape moments. Yeah. And it's not as good as like the escapes in something like Ori and the Blind Forest.
That's fantastic.
But it's the closest the game ever gets to sort of that free-running Assassin's Creed feel, which is sort of a shame. And you do have some other things, like you leap off of, you have leaps of faith and stuff like that.
Do birds go caw when you do it?
Yeah, totally.
Great.
You hear that. There's a great
is.
moment and a great painterly scene. The background behind that Portuguese.
Is there
ship
like
is
good
just
Assassin
amazing.
Templar stuff going on in here, or is
No.
it pretty much blah?
No.
Really?
Fair enough.
I mean, and that's the other thing
I'm
that's
actually quite
flat about
surprised.
it is that the whole thing, considering how sort of story focused it is, there's no real world building or character building or anything. The story is all told essentially in sort of like interstitials between chapters. And,
So, like, as an Assassin's Creed fan that you are, Kevin, is there no parts where it like links into other ones? Is this character part of the lore?
It is, but in the sense. I mean, she was trained by Ezio.
Okay.
For example, and they've done some stuff with comics and things like that I've not really paid much attention to. I've always been very game focused, and this is their way, I think, of exploring like those side stories. But the links to the things I care about now. I will say I haven't played Rogue, and I haven't yet finished Unity.
Okay.
So my links are with mostly with 4 and beforehand. But honestly, the only thing she's doing there. So there's the precursors, the former civilization. There's an artifact in a box, and that's what she's going after.
What's in the box?
An artifact.
Okay.
And that's really all it boils down to is like she
wife's
wants
head.
the box. There's a lot of talk about the
absolutely
box.
nothing.
Okay.
It's just like, I want that box. No, we're keeping the box. I'm moving the box.
Wow.
I want the box. So that's
Don't we all?
That's kind of
Box chases.
Is it
That's
more
what the story
talking about the
is.
box than Legendary the Box? Do you remember that?
Of course, I remember that. I reviewed
Yeah.
Legendary the Box.
Did you?
And it brings
goodness.
back some really good podcast moments that we can't talk about here because they're pretty gross.
Yeah, okay. I see
where
what direction I
all
went
gross
in.
content goes to fester.
While we have you here, just what's your general thoughts on the Assassin's Creed series, where it's at the moment? Obviously, we're looking forward to our little London jaunt. Last year was an interesting one. You haven't played Rogue. Unity, we gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and we gave Rogue a 6 out of 10. And you'd think I'd be interested in Rogue because I love snow in games, so I kind of have a soft spot for going to to chilly places. So maybe at some point I'll get to Rogue, especially now that it's on PC. But I mean, and this is coming from, I've got an Assassin's Creed tattoo.
Yeah.
Like this is a series that I love, for a lot of reasons. But I feel like a lot of things that I loved about it have sort of been pushed aside in favor of this Ubisoft formula. And this Ubisoft formula being, here's a map with a lot of little icons on it that all represent content. And I put in quotes, content. And you go and you chase the content. And there's a story that puts it all together. But some of the magic is gone. Like, for example, one of my favorite things, and I know people hate the Desmond story, okay?
Right, yeah.
I'm not one of those people, but I know that a lot of people hated the Desmond story. But
Hoodie haters, they call themselves.
yeah, exactly. But one of the things that I've always kind of enjoyed about Assassin's Creed is the way that it tries to make things that are typically gamey, things that show up in games but we just ignore because they're things that games do, like interface and health bars
Our suspension
and all
of
this stuff.
disbelief.
Yeah,
Sort of.
and one thing that I always loved about Assassin's Creed is the way that it always made some kind of sense out of every single gamey thing within its story structure.
You're not losing your health, you're desynchronized.
Yeah, or even things like you press, the Y button or the triangle button, that was like stuff up here.
Yeah.
And this was one arm and this was the other arm and A was for running and stuff like that. Like all that stuff's just been thrown away.
Yeah.
Like all those things that I think were neat, and I get it, games evolve over time, but I feel like it's now it's become so gamey, and I hate that word because these are video games, right? But a lot of stuff just feels contrived because, okay, now we just do it because this is what video games do.
Yeah. Man, I love the first game so much.
Oh my
look at
God,
that.
my bald head.
Who's that guy?
The thing is, I love the first game, and I got a lot of flack over loving the first game as much as I did.
I am right there with you. It's 2 and Brotherhood are certainly better games, but I love 1 for what
I mean, I think 2 is the pinnacle, but I think 1 was a very important game, a very special game, for a lot of reasons. You had stuff like this, which is insane now that I look back on it. But I mean, I spent so much time in that world just looking for stupid flags, and eventually all that stuff. It's just like, oh, there are ways to just uncover every freaking icon on the map. But
I mean, all right. So if you're talking about stuff that has now become gamey within the series, is this really? Is it a criticism of the series has changed, or just that we've done it so many times within Assassin's Creed that it now just feels like the formula is worn, and so we feel familiar with it. And so the stuff that, like, you know, the magic and wonder of exploring Jerusalem, you know, in the first one, you're not going to get that with exploring Paris. Just, you know, the map may be better, the story may be changed, but if the same sort of structural underpinnings are there, aren't you seeing that more clearly now that you've repeated that a bunch of different times in different places?
I mean, I think it's both. I mean, part of it is just it's series fatigue. There's an Assassin's Creed every year, or 2 Assassin's Creed every year, or 3 Assassin's Creed every year, and a bunch of related things like comics and mobile games and all that stuff. So, I mean, even me, like, who I thought was like, nobody could love Assassin's Creed more than me, I thought, like, as a rule. You know, finally, you know, Unity came out and it's just like, I didn't care. And as much as I loved 4, they're just, some of the magic is lost. Like, you do it too much. And after a while, I'm not really into this anymore.
What I liked about 4, and I don't think it necessarily appeals to me, but what I liked about 4 is that they tried to change it. They tried to stop it being this, like, very much a rigid, you were going here, you were doing this. Like, 4 tried to give you the idea of, all right, just go out and find your own fun. Like, there is the main quest stuff going on, but there is actually quite a lot of just random stuff you can go do if you want to do it.
Well, plus it had sailing. I mean, Assassin's Creed 3 had the sailing, but in 4 they really made that a huge thing. It was it was more or less sort of just a side thing that you did in Assassin's Creed 3. In Assassin's Creed 4, it was front and center, and because it had bigger spaces, because it took time to breathe, I think that's what made it interesting. And you know, when you get back to like what Unity did, for example, and it's just like cramming all the icons together, and the same thing with Far Cry and the Crew and things like that. And that's the other thing is, of course, when you apply that formula across all these
Watch Dogs as well.
Yeah, and Watch Dogs as well. Like, you get wise to it. The tricks don't work as much anywhere, and you miss that Red Dead kind of feeling where there was room to breathe and there was room to go out and find something interesting, which is why one of the things I love about The Witcher, by the way. I almost wish I had been here for that, because you know, that's the kind of thing I like is, okay, lead me to things, but don't show me everything. Don't tip your hand, because then all it does is make me feel like all this represents to you is not creativity or imagination or mystery. It just represents
boxes you need to check at a certain distribution level.
And it's hard to get lost in a world. It's hard to get, like, you know, distracted by something in a game world and run off in that way when you've already got, like, this checklist of 20 things you need to do already. Like, it's almost like a burden at that stage where you're like, oh, I've got so much. Like, I think that perhaps, like, I kind of fault myself for this a little bit, but with AC4, the reason why I stopped playing it at a certain point was like, man, I'm never going to finish this. Like, there's so much stuff here, and I just went, all right, I'm tapping out now. So
and that's really it. I mean, I'm glad they branched out. I mean, it does seem like, because there are going to be 2 more of these things. There's going to be one in India and one in Russia.
These Chronicles games.
And I'm super looking forward to what they do, in part because it was just so beautiful. Like, I want to be in these places. But then when you don't do anything with these places, when the story is just kind of blah, when the gameplay is just kind of blah, you know, one of the things I love about Assassin's Creed is the free running. And when that's sort of taken away, there's a little bit of that edge lost, I think.